Most of what you know about ancient Egypt is a lie, and one man's religious revolution is one. Around 1353 BCE, a young pharaoh took the throne of Egypt with a radical idea. Forget the gods your ancestors worshipped for 1,000 years. Worship only one. His name was Akhenaten, and what happened next would fracture a civilization and nearly erase his existence from history entirely. But here's the twist nobody tells you. His failed rebellion actually reshaped everything Egypt became. Let's set the stage. Egypt in 1353 was the superpower of the ancient world. The priesthood of Amun controlled more wealth than the pharaoh himself. Temples owned vast estates, commanded armies of workers, levied their own taxes. The system had worked for centuries. Then this teenager decided it was fundamentally wrong. Akhenaten didn't just worship differently. He abolished the old priesthood, shut down their temples, and declared that a single god, Aten, the sun disk itself, was the only divine force. He moved the capital city. He renamed himself. He had his father's name chiseled off monuments. He was erasing the past to build a future nobody else wanted. The priests fought back not with swords, but with papyrus and chisel. When Akhenaten died around 1336 BCE, they systematically erased him. His monuments were defaced. His name was struck from king lists. His city was abandoned. It was as if he'd never existed. And for nearly 3,000 years, he didn't not in Egypt's official memory. But here's what those priests didn't know. They'd sealed his fate and accidentally preserved it. By destroying his monument so thoroughly, they left traces everywhere. Archaeologists in the 1800s found fragments. Then, in 1912, the famous bust of Akhenaten surfaced in Berlin. Suddenly, the heretic pharaoh had a face again. Now, here's where most people get the story wrong. They call him a visionary, a proto-monotheist ahead of his time. Romantic, sure, but that's not what reshaped Egypt. What mattered was what came after he was gone. His son-in-law, a boy who'd grown up in the new capital, inherited a fractured kingdom. His name was Tutankhamun. You know him as King Tut, the boy king whose tomb was found intact in 1922. But Tut's real power lay in what he chose to do with Akhenaten's wreckage. Tut didn't just restore the old gods. He actively rehabilitated Amun's priesthood, gave them back their temples, their wealth, their power. He was barely 16. He likely didn't make these decisions alone. But by restoring what Akhenaten had destroyed, Tut became the architect of Egypt's spiritual recovery. Here's the irony right here. Akhenaten's revolution failed completely during his lifetime, yet it exposed something fragile about Egypt's power structure. The priesthood's dominance had become so absolute that one pharaoh could nearly topple it. That close call changed everything. After Tut died, mysteriously, at 19, Egypt entered a new era. The priesthood never regained the absolute power they'd held before Akhenaten. The balance shifted. Pharaohs became more vigilant, more careful about clerical authority. The system itself evolved because of a heretic who'd been dead for decades. The real curse of Akhenaten wasn't supernatural, it was structural. He'd shown that the priesthood could be challenged. That memory haunted Egypt's rulers for centuries. Policies shifted, succession protocols tightened. The very existence of his heresy, even erased from records, had rewired how power flowed. What's fascinating is that we almost never learned any of this. Akhenaten's erasure nearly worked. If his fragments hadn't survived, if that bust hadn't been excavated, we'd have a completely different understanding of late dynasty Egypt. We'd think the priesthood's power was inevitable, unchangeable, eternal. Instead, his story reveals something uncomfortable. History is written by the survivors. The priests who erased Akhenaten thought they were protecting Egypt. In a way, they were. But they also proved that even a pharaoh's power could be unmade, rewritten, forgotten, if enough people wanted it badly enough. The Amarna Period, that's what historians call Akhenaten's reign, and its immediate aftermath, lasted only about 3 decades. Tiny in the span of Egyptian history. Yet it fundamentally altered how pharaohs and priests negotiated power for the next 1,000 years. One failed revolution, nearly erased, reshaping everything that came after. So when you walk through a museum and see that famous Akhenaten bust, you're not looking at a visionary or a madman. You're looking at the ghost of a man whose deliberate erasure was so thorough that his resurrection became proof of something larger. Forgotten history isn't really forgot. It's just waiting. Subscribe so you don't miss the next forgotten figure whose erasure from history nearly rewrote civilization.